The Happiest Man on Earth, The Beautiful Life of an Auschwitz Survivor by Jaku. This book. Jaku was born in 1920. 100 years later, he published his memoir. And it became an immediate bestseller. This is how it starts. I'll read the introduction. It's very short. My dear new friend, I have lived for a century, and I know what it is to stare evil in the face. I have seen the very worst in mankind, the horrors of the death camps, the Nazi efforts to exterminate my life, and the lives of all my people. But I now consider myself the happiest man on earth. Through all my years, I have learned this. Life can be beautiful if you make it beautiful. I will tell you my story. It is a sad one, in parts, with great darkness and great sorrow. But it is a happy story in the end, because happiness is something we can choose. It is up to you. I will show you how. There is something we can all learn from this book. There are many life lessons. I've read this book in 8 days, so have a look. It's quite short. You can read it. I'm sure you're a faster reader than me. But there's something that writers and aspiring authors can find especially valuable from this book. What are these lessons? I'll tell you at the end of the video. Stick around. Of course not. I'm going to tell you now. I'm not going to play this stupid game. The first thing is this. After I read this book, I went online. I wanted to find out more about Jaku. So I went online and I typed Jaku. And Google gave me 3 extra words to complete, what I just typed. Jaku, cause of death. And I thought, well, for a second, I thought, didn't he survive? Well, actually, Jaku died in 2021, 1 year after he published his memoir. And I felt happy and sad at the same time. I felt happy because I thought, imagine if this man hadn't written his story. Imagine if he didn't, if he hadn't published this book. This book is dedicated, there's a very clear, the dedication is for future generations. So he passed away, but he left us his story. And I thought, wow, imagine if I die. I mean, I could die tomorrow. You could die tomorrow. And maybe there is a story that you want to share. Maybe there are some important lessons that you want to tell, you want to share with the world, but maybe you're not doing this because, perfectionism, the story. I'm not good enough, or, this story is not interesting. No one will like this. No one will find it useful. Who's going to read this? It's not valuable. All this nonsense that we have, all these limiting beliefs that we have, well, this made me think. It made me think that, we have a short time. Well, you don't want to go without having told your story. So this is the first lesson. The second one is that really Jaku wiped out all the possible excuses that we could come up with for not writing our story, for not sharing, for not writing our book, our tiny little book. Or a blog post. It doesn't have to be a book, but to write, to share, to put words onto the page and help other people with our words. Why? Why am I saying this? Well, there's a quote. Wait, I've got it here on my computer. It says, this is what it says in the acknowledgements. So at the end of the book, he says, English is not my first language, and with the limitations of advanced age, this was not an easy task to undertake. Nevertheless, I hope that readers will find Nevertheless, I hope that readers will find that the effort was worthwhile. He wrote a book. He's German. He was German. He wrote a book in English. He was 100 years old when he wrote this book. He told one of the most difficult, I think he says this, it's a difficult story for him to share. Like, what excuse do we have now? What excuses can we come up with not to do the work? We don't have anything else now to hide, anywhere to hide now, because maybe you think I'm not old enough. Well, maybe you think English is not my first language, so I cannot write a good book. Well, you can get help, but you don't have to publish in your second language. You can publish in your first language, and that's it. So he wrote, he's a role model, I think, for writers. But you may say, and this is the third thing that you could learn, well, I'm not an Auschwitz survivor. I don't have an interesting story to tell. But you don't have to be an Auschwitz survivor to have something interesting to say. This is interesting because it shows you the worst and the best of humankind, of our race, of what we could do, how far we could get with hatred and love as well. But you don't need to have that. You don't need to have that extraordinary life, an extraordinary life story, because your life and my life too is a concatenation of life lessons, of achievements, of successes, of failures that are very interesting. Talking about your failures, very interesting. It's a concatenation of lessons that you've either learned or failed to learn, and so you've already got a story, especially if you want to write a memoir. If you want to write a memoir, how many stories can you tell about relationships that went wrong, about times when you betrayed your friends, maybe you survived I don't know, an accident, I don't know, but it doesn't have to be extraordinary. Like, I'm not a parent, I don't have kids and I don't want kids, but just like I know that being a parent is so difficult. It's very hard to be a parent. Like, it changes your life completely, especially when you have a baby. When your children are babies. There's a whole book there to write. I don't know, because I'm not interested in parenting. But think about the humor that you could use in a book like that. The humor of, or I don't know, there are endless possibilities. So don't think you need to have an interesting life, because you're more interesting. You and I and everyone is more interesting than what you think you are. I believe this. I believe that if I gave you something to write, to share a lesson, I think you would find one. I'll give you an hour to come up with a lesson or with something that could, that could be interesting for another person to read. So really, these are the three main things. The first one, well, no more excuses. The first one is it's write it before it's too late. I know that this sounds, maybe, you're not going to die tomorrow, hopefully. But because I don't believe in that saying, live your life as if it were the last day of your life, something like this. I don't. That's a bit too. It doesn't reflect what life is. Like if I were to die tomorrow, I mean today, I wouldn't live my life like I'm living it now. But you cannot think in this way. Like it means that the future is not there, but the future, we think it's there. So I'm not. I don't buy that completely, and that's why this lesson probably, it's the least credible. I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad he wrote this book before he went. I'm so glad. Second one, no more excuses. You're not too old. You're good enough. This is the main lesson. And the third one, well, you don't have to have an interesting life because you already have. You already have an interesting life. What else can I say about this book? Well, the video ends here really, but the book, actually, I loved it so much that this is I bought it for my mom because sometimes she's too negative and I think she needs to read stories like this. And that's it. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is please, I'm not here to talk about politics, the Nazis, Israel, what's going on now. I'm not talking about these things. I don't want to talk about these things. This is not why I have this YouTube channel. I have my opinions. I won't share them here. I won't talk about politics. So I feel this needs to be said. And I hope that you will read this book. I hope that you will. And I hope that you will take action on this book and start writing your own. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're a writer and you want to improve your writing or you want to keep improving your writing, consider joining my private email list, Better Writers. I send one short email every week. I share tips, insights, things that I learn, book recommendations to help you do one thing only: become a better writer. The link is in the show notes or in the description of this video. Thank you for listening once again. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.